Is Figure already winning the race against human workers? Today on AI News, we're going to break down Figure's ongoing multi-day long live stream for you to decide whether you'd rather employ a human or a humanoid based on cost, performance, downsides, and more. Now, Figure has a human stepping into the mix on the left side here so that the audience can compare the speed between the both of them. And let's get into some of the stats here. As for Jim, the Figure 3 humanoid, this is using a 2.3 kilowatt hour battery that runs for about 5 hours continuously, and it charges at 2 kilowatts through its feet, which takes just over an hour. You can see these robots in the back. Now, watch the human as he begins to sort these packages. And he starts out going pretty strong. But just in terms of some specs for Jim, this is actually using 35 degrees of freedom across the full body with modular joints for easy disassembly and servicing. And they actually will service themselves when they run into trouble. But let's see the human here. He's already getting ahead of the Figure. They're 30 to 30. Now 31, he's leading. And just remember here that the California minimum wage is about $16.90 per hour, which means that every 8 hours costs $135.20. And then you have to factor in overtime, which is 1.5 times, which would be $25.35 per hour. But we can see this human slowly gaining an edge on Jim, and we're just going to fast forward here. Now, you can see he's several hundred packages ahead, and it comes time for him to take his California mandatory break of 10 minutes. Let's just see how far ahead Figure 3 can get. And by the way, in terms of some stats, in order to employ a human, you're looking at about $48,000 per year. And including payroll taxes, workers' comp benefits, etc., it's an extra 20 to 30%, pushing the real cost of employing a human towards $58,000 to $63,000 per year. Whereas the projected cost of Figure 3 is about $24,000. Here you can see Rose is working, but let's actually step back here and see the handoff between Rose and Jim. So something to note here is that you would need more than one of these robots, because as you'll see here, Jim suddenly realizes that he's running out of battery, so he calls Rose to replace him. You see him begin to step back, and he's going to go back to the chargers that you see in the background to inductively recharge himself within just over an hour. In the meanwhile, we're going to have less than a minute pause in between, and Rose is going to step forward. So each one of these robots, they're aiming for $24,000. Now, you're looking at a minimum of 2 robots to run 24 hours a day. So that would be about $48,000. But remember, you're not paying workers' comp or employee taxes, etc. And Rose, Jim, the rest of these, they're not just going to up and quit or call in sick. Now, in the meanwhile, we see here that the human is moving ahead, but just consider the cost difference here. Within 3 years of employing a human, including all the overhead of workers' comp, benefits, payroll, etc., you're looking at somewhere between $174,000 to $189,000. So now, let's watch the human getting back from his 10-minute break. Meanwhile, the Figure robot has caught up by a couple hundred packages. And the human is still setting up here. He still needs to put on his gloves. And remember, when these robots are working, there's no overtime to pay them, which is a considerable amount of savings. For instance, on Christmas, Thanksgiving, any type of holiday, no extra pay. Now, the human is back at it, and you can see here that sometimes he's doing 3, 4, 5 packages per every single package that this robot is processing. But again, you have to think about the cost difference. And something to note here is that the annual electricity bill, if you were paying about 27 cents per kilowatt hour for running this robot, would be about $1.24 per day, which would be an annual electricity cost per robot of about $322. If you were to actually do the math, each robot at roughly a $24,000 price point ends up paying itself off within about 6 months or 129 workdays. And over the span of 3 years, although currently this robot is slightly lagging behind in terms of speed when compared to the human, it's still going to be about 7 times cheaper over the course of 3 years. Now, if we fast forward here, we can see that the figure has processed 3,000 packages in comparison to the human's 3,600, but we're going to run into the issue here that he's going to take off his gloves and he's going to take a break for lunch. So now we've fast forwarded to the end of the lunch break, and we see that the figure robot has actually exceeded the total amount of packages in comparison to the human. And we have almost a 100 package lead probably by the time that the human begins competing again against Rose. Now, if you recall, Rose has been working since about 9, and this clock is counting down. Now it's 5:42. So it's about 3 hours and 18 minutes before she gets that low battery notification where she's going to autonomously call in her coworker, and she's going to inductively charge herself on the stand. And we have Jim step back in. Let's count this. It's been about 15 seconds so far, and he's going to orient, and there he is back at it. We're looking at about 20 seconds for him to begin sorting again. And we see that figure still has the lead here in terms of packages sorted. And now fast forwarding to the end of the shift for the human. After 106 hours in total nonstop for the robot with 131,000 packages processed, the results are in. The human did take the lead here by just a few hundred packages, but comment down below whether or not you think it's worth it in terms of all of these hidden costs of employing a human over a robot, and whether or not you would rather purchase one of these robots outright for $24,000 or if a leasing strategy would be more appropriate, and what would be the cost that you'd be able to bear as a business. Anyways, like and subscribe, and check out this video here for more of the latest in AI and robotics news, and thanks for watching.